Hello, and welcome to Storytime with Mr. Laws. Today we're reading Wayside School Gets a Little Stranger by Lewis Sacca. Chapter 1, Explanation. For 243 days, a lonely sign hung upside down on the front of the old school building. Wayside School, closed for repairs. On some days, a child would come, look at the sign, and then sadly walk away. Or else a child would come, look at the sign, stand on her head, and then sadly walk away. Lewis watched them come and go, but he never said hi to them. He hid when they came. It was his job to repair the school. Lewis used to be the yard teacher at Wayside School. He passed out the balls and played with the kids at playtime and lunch. When the school closed, the children were sent to other schools. Horrible schools. No two kids were sent to the same school. Lewis was afraid he'd cry if he talked to them. But he worked hard. For 242 days, he pushed and pulled, shoveled and mopped. He never left the building. At night, he slept on the sofa in the staff room on the 12th floor. Some days it seemed hopeless. The worst part was the smell. He often had to run and stick his head out a window to get a breath of fresh air. But whenever he felt like quitting, he thought about those poor kids stuck in those horrible schools, and he just worked harder. And at last, 243 days later, the school was ready to open. Well, almost ready. There was one little problem. Suddenly, from somewhere inside the building, or maybe just inside his head, Lewis heard a loud moo. He put his hands over his ears and said, "I don't hear it, I don't hear it, I don't hear it," until the mooing stopped. He had scrubbed and polished every inch of Wayside School. There were no cows anywhere. He was sure of it. Still, every once in a while, he heard something go moo. Or at least he thought he did. He took the sign off the door. But before you enter, you should know something about Wayside School. Wayside School is a 30-storey building with one room on each floor, except there is no 19th storey. Mrs. Jules teaches the class on the 30th storey. Miss Zarves teaches the class on the 19th storey. There is no Miss Zarves. Understand? Good. Explain it to me. "Lewis!" someone shouted. He turned to see a red and blue overcoat running toward him. "Hi, Cherie," he said. He couldn't see her face, but he knew she had to be somewhere inside the coat. Cherie jumped into his arms. "I bet you're glad to be back," said Lewis. "You bet," said Cherie. "Now I can finally get some sleep." All around the playground, old friends were getting back together. "Hi, old pal," said John. "Hey, good buddy," said Joe. "Bebe!" yelled Calvin from one side of the playground. "Calvin!" shouted Bebe from the other. They ran and smashed into each other. "Hi, Eric. Good to see you," said Eric. "Hey, good to see you too," said Eric. "Oh, look, there's Eric." "Hi, Eric. Hi, Eric. Hi, Eric. Hi, Eric." Even Kathy said hello to everybody. "Hi, Big Ears," she said to Myron as she slapped him on the back. What's happening, Smelly?" she asked Damien. "You didn't take a bath for 243 days, did you?" "Oh, hi, Alison. Did you get uglier while you were away, or were you always this ugly and I just forgot?" "That's a nice jumper, Kathy," said Alison, who always tried to say something nice. Kathy moved on to Terence. "Oh, I'm sure glad to see you, Terence," she said. "You are?" asked Terence. "Yeah," said Kathy. "I thought you'd be in jail by now." Todd came running across the playground. "Hi, Todd," shouted Cherie right in Lewis's ear. Todd kept running. "Hey, Todd," called Jason. "Good to see you." "Hi, Todd," called Myron and DJ. But Todd didn't answer. He just kept running until he reached the school building. Then he kissed Wayside School. Out of all the schools, Todd had been sent to the very worst one. It was awful. The first thing he had to do every morning was... Wait a second. I don't have to tell you. You already know. Todd was sent to your school. Chapter 2. A message from the principal. Damien hurried up the stairs. He couldn't wait to see Mrs. Jules, his favourite teacher in the whole world. But the 30th floor was a lot higher up than he remembered, even if there was no 19th. By the time he got up there, his legs hurt, his side ached, and he had a blister on the back of his ankle where it rubbed against his trainer. He stumbled into the room and collapsed on the floor. "Hi, Mrs. Jules," he gasped. "Hi, Damien, welcome back," said Mrs. Jules. Damien looked up at her. Something seemed different about her, but he wasn't sure what it was. "Oh, Damien, would you do me a favour?" she asked. "Sure," said Damien. "I left my pencil in the office," said Mrs. Jules. "Would you mind going down and getting it for me?" "No problem," said Damien. "It's yellow," said Mrs. Jules. "It has a point at one end and a red rubber at the other." Damien got to his feet and headed down the stairs. One by one, the other children staggered into the classroom, huffing and puffing. They were all out of shape. Still, they were very excited to be back in Mrs. Jules's class. Shouts of joy could be heard from every corner of the room. Mrs. Jules held up 2 fingers. All the children became quiet. Joy stopped shouting. Mrs. Jules told the children to sit at their old desks. "So, did anyone learn anything at your other schools?" she asked. Mac raised his hand. "Ooh, ooh, ooh," he grunted. Yes, Mac," said Mrs. Jules. "Civilization," declared Mac. "What about civilization?" asked Mrs. Jules. "We learned it," said Mac. "That's very impressive," said Mrs. Jules. "Would you like to tell the class something about civilization?" Mac thought a moment. "I don't remember," he said, "but I know we learned it." "That's very good, Mac," said Mrs. Jules. "Anyone else learn anything?" Rondi raised her hand. "Evaporation," she said. "Good," said Mrs. Jules. "What is evaporation?" "I don't know," said Rondi. Dana raised her hand. "I learned about exaggeration," she said. "It was all my teacher ever talked about. We had like 10,000 tests on it, and the teacher would kill you if you didn't spell it right." "That's very good, Dana," said Mrs. Jules. "You learned your lesson well." "I did?" asked Dana. Mrs. Jules shrugged. "Well, I guess we'll just continue where we left off." Just then, Mr. Kidswatter's voice came over the PA system. "Good morning, boys and girls." Mr. Kidswatter was the principal. He paused a moment because he thought every kid in the school was saying, "Good morning, Mr. Kidswatter," back to him. Nobody said it. Cherie buried her head in her huge coat, closed her eyes, and went to sleep. "Welcome back to Wayside School," said Mr. Kidswatter. "I know I'm sure glad to be back. It was wonderful to see all your bright and chipper faces this morning. I missed every single one of you. And welcome back to Miss Mush too. Today's lunch menu will be baked liver in purple sauce. Miss Mush actually cooked this before the school was closed, but she assures me it's still as tasty as ever." "I'm sure it is," said Myron. "A safety reminder. Now, it has been a while since you've had to rush up and down the stairs, and I want to make sure there are no accidents. So, remember this simple rule. When you go up the stairs, stay to your right. When you go down the stairs, stay to your left. That way, there should be no problems. Okay, let's all have a good day. And remember, I'm your friend, and you're my friends. And if you ever need a friend, you can always come to me." "Isn't that nice?" said Mrs. Jules. "Ah, what a bunch of baloney," There I was, lying on a beach in Jamaica, when suddenly I get a call that the dumb school's back open. Well, those kids better not bother me. My friends? That's a joke. Like I would really want to be friends with those little snot-nosed... What? Don't tell me to shut up. You shut up. What's on? What's on? What do you mean? They're hearing what I'm saying, right this very second? Well, how do I turn it off? What button? I don't see a red button. There is no red button. Oh, hear it. That's all for today. I'll see you tomorrow for the next few chapters.